So in introducing this program, the DTI says that Black industrialists refer to black people directly involved in the origination, creation, significant ownership, management and operation of industrial enterprises that derive value from the manufacturing of goods and services at a large scale, acting to unlock the productive potential of our country's capital assets for massive employment locally. Now, the following are important elements of being an industrialist, particularly a black industrialist: significant influence in an enterprise or industry, control of an enterprise through shareholding, and board and executive management control, and the production of products. I'm talking with Zara Roji, and she's a founding director at Uzenzela, a niche consulting firm with over 60 years of combined experience in business development, capital raising, and accessing government funding about a specific developmental initiative launched by our president when he was still Jacob Zuma's deputy, designed to identify and to empower black industrialists in South Africa. Zara, is the Black Industrialist program really a unique DTI initiative, or simply a repackaging of funding incentives available from the DTI and its agencies for black beneficiaries to more easily and more haphazardly buy up chunks of equity in previously white-owned businesses in South Africa? What would you say?
So I would say that absolutely it is a fantastic program that has been put into place. And you've touched on some interesting things there, Ivor. What you've touched on, for example, is you mentioned haphazardly, buying up shares in white-owned businesses. That isn't necessarily the intention of the Black Industrialist scheme, and quite frankly, that's not really what it's looking to achieve, and it's not what it's doing.
And it's not what people would get funding for if that's what they were
doing. Absolutely. So the purpose of the Black Industrialist scheme is to help with the capital expenditure requirements of manufacturers that are majority black-owned, managed and controlled.
Existing operators or new operators?
Both. So if we look at the landscape, what the government is trying to achieve is to help black-owned businesses with the capital expenditure requirements, barriers that they face in order to actually get their factories up and running, to put it simply. And the funds that are there are specifically for your capital expenditure requirements. So they are there to buy tools, machinery, equipment, fund some commercial property, as well as some commercial vehicles and a bit of business development support. But the primary role of those funds is towards machinery, so that we can produce more, in that we're creating jobs, we're creating economic impact, we're creating products that can be exported, and in that whole process, of course, helping to uplift and grow the company.
So in terms of BBBEE, the asset sale mechanism of ownership is in fact the best vehicle to look at the Black Industrialist funding for?
No, not necessarily, because the funding isn't there to buy shares.
But it's there to buy assets.
It's there to buy assets.
Capital assets.
Correct.
And that's what the asset sale component is about.
So yes, it's there. What is being misunderstood to a great extent is that this funding is there for white-owned businesses to get transformed. And it is an opportunity for that, but it's there primarily for black-owned businesses. And if I look at a lot of the businesses I know of that have accessed this funding, they are existing black businesses that need to scale.
To grow.
That are looking to grow, that need better machinery, that need bigger premises, that have the opportunity to gain massive market share, but don't have the funding capability to do that.
So organizations such as your own are well placed then to broker access to that funding for these individuals in their existing businesses, or in fact, if it is part of an equity purchase deal, into a new business.
Yes. We certainly do. That is what we do day to day. We assist businesses to access finance, wherever it may be from. A big part of that is government incentives.
And the money is available and it flows?
The money is available, it flows. We've successfully raised it for clients.
And security?
Security, so remember, this is a grant. So this is a very interesting aspect of the grant that is misunderstood, is that it is a cost-sharing grant, which means that the government will contribute a portion of your funding requirement. In the case of the Black Industrialist scheme, it's anywhere between 30 to 50% of the capital expenditure requirement. So let's assume, for example, a business needs 50 million rand to buy machinery, tools, equipment. If they qualify for on all the criteria of the Black Industrialist scheme, and they get full points, let's assume for argument's sake, they would get up to 50% of that requirement.
25 million.
25 million. There is a balance that is required. 25 million plus working capital. So typically an extra sort of 50% on working capital depending on where your business is at. That still needs to be raised, and that typically comes from debt. from lenders. And that's where your security is required. Security is not required for grants.
Seller-funded activity, basically.
Ultimately, at the end of the day. But what's the interesting thing is that most businesses think you can get this grant without having to worry about things like security, etc. The grant is not available if you cannot secure the co-funding.
The balance of the funding. Zara, it's absolutely fascinating having you here in studio, because I think you're operationalizing these opportunities which are available that we don't always understand.
Absolutely.
While this facility is critical, if we're to see more businesses which innovate in a new and different and exciting way, creating more labor-intensive opportunities for growth, the number of employed South Africans has to increase. One cannot help but feel that this facility will be less about beneficiaries starting new businesses than about presenting opportunities for business owners to grow their businesses, and white business owners potentially to exit their existing successful businesses. Zara, it's been a pleasure having you in studio, and I hope that we'll have many more opportunities to engage on other grants which are available, and more importantly, melded, combined opportunities for funding that so many new entrepreneurs need to find out about. Thanks for being in studio with me.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Until our follow-up show next month, I urge you as business owners to take responsibility for considering the impact which government policy, regulations and laws are continuing to have on your businesses. Don't ignore the consequences of regulation or your opportunity to participate in its formulation. You do so at your peril. I'm your host, Dr. Ivor Blumenthal, and I look forward to you joining me for our next show on government policy and your business.